Hello and welcome to the Unnamed Automotive Podcast. My name is Sami Haj Assad, and with me, as always, is my good friend and fellow automotive journalist, Benjamin Hunting. Say hi to the people, Ben.
Greetings, human listeners.
Greetings to everyone. If this is the first time you're listening to our podcast, thank you for listening, and thank you for your patience. Me and Ben actually hung out last week and were unable to do the podcast at the same time. We actually just did the podcast in real life with each other, but without any of the preamble, without any of the recordings, and pretty much without any of the real consumer advice or reviews that we usually give in the show.
Sammy's describing Sammy's describing friendship in meat space, I guess is how you would put it. Does anyone say meat space anymore? Is that a thing?
Now, when you say meat space, do you mean meeting somebody?
No
or
one ever meets
flesh.
Meat like flesh. I don't think anyone has ever. I mean, maybe there was a .com called Meat Space 20 years ago, but I don't think anyone has used it in that context in a long time.
Okay. Well,
I'm using it in the Cronenberg "Long Live the New Flesh" type of meeting.
I guess so. Now, that's the voice of Benjamin Hunting, of all people, who is my good friend and fellow automotive journalist. He says hi to everybody, every show. Mostly corporeal people, non-robots, non-ghosts. That's what you're...
I don't want to paint ghosts with a big brush like that, so I'm going to forget that you said that.
Do you put ghosts and robots in the
Here you go.
Anyways, Ben, I would love you to plug a couple of the latest publications that you've been writing for.
You can find my work at Motor Trend, at Inside Hook, and at driving.ca.
And you can find my work at autotrader.ca and driving.ca.
One more random thing. I actually, for the first time, was interviewed by NPR this week.
What does NPR stand for again?
National Public Radio.
Not something record?
What?
Not policy record?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm just trying to come up with three other words that start with NP.
I'm glad you went with the funniest words in the English language: policy and record.
Noodle, pool, removal.
You
were interviewed by them.
I had written something for Motor Trend about EV driving in the winter and essentially range testing. And I think one of their producers found it and wanted to talk about the impact of cold weather on EVs. So it was strange. I can tell you it's strange to be the interviewee instead of the person asking the questions. But what was more interesting to me was the host that I talked to. I was speaking with them about I mentioned that I was in southern Quebec, and they were like, "Oh, so whereabouts?" And I'm like, I'm about 5 miles from the Vermont border. And then they were like, "Oh, so you're in the Eastern Townships then?" And I'm like,
right.
How do you know that? And they revealed that they were secretly from Montreal. So that was funny. It was very random. They live in DC right now, and that's where they live, permanently. Mm-hmm. And they come back to visit Montreal 1 or 2 times a year. So kind of the world feels very small sometimes.
What does it feel like to be on NPR, which is a national public radio? And they interviewed you. Obviously, they interviewed you about your knowledge and expertise on something, but also because you were in Motor Trend and wrote something really cool in there.
You just try not to sound like an idiot, I guess.
The
opposite of this podcast. That's how it felt.
How easy is it for you?
Well, the fall I spent, I would say, 20 hours being interviewed on podcasts for my comic book that was coming out. And it was very similar to that, except I couldn't be as off the cuff because I also had to remember facts and figures. Mm-hmm. So now I have a little bit more empathy for the people that I interview who are on the spot and have to come up with coherent answers in a live setting.
So this week, Ben, we've got a pair of electric vehicles to talk. Actually, the same electric vehicle that both of us have driven.
Yes.
Are you comfortable doing a joint review on this?
What choice do I have?
Well, I mean, I could just let you do all the talking.
I put myself in this position.
Yeah. As have I. I mean, actually, I think I drove the car several weeks, maybe almost a month ago.
And you didn't like it. And that's why we're talking about it now, because you had a very different experience than I did.
Yeah. So we're talking about the 2026 Hyundai IONIQ 9. I drove the range-topping calligraphy, ultimate calligraphy, ultimate with the calligraphy package.
Okay, I don't think that's a trim, but
Sorry, hold on. It's called the
preferred with the ultimate
preferred
package.
all-wheel drive plus with the ultimate calligraphy package. That's what the full name is in Canada.
If you're in the States, it's just calligraphy. It's
Wow,
exactly the same.
They know how to treat the people with trim names.
It's just odd that it's presented as a package here. Hyundai does this on a bunch of their electric vehicles where like they have two trims, but also there's packages which are technically trims? Question mark.
Yeah. Ultimate calligraphy package. Anyways, I drove this in one of the snowiest weeks I've ever had a car this year. And I also got an opportunity to compare it to the Hyundai Palisade Hybrid, which we talked about in a previous episode. And I found a couple of things, driving the two cars back to back. I found a few things that stood out to me in favor, maybe not in favor of the Palisade, but things that knocked the calligraphy, the IONIQ 9 down a peg in my mind. Because I think from a distance, it's a really cool car. I think it continues the really good ambitions of the IONIQ sub-brand, which the 5, 6, and the 5N, and I think there's a new 6N coming, all really have impressed in terms of their design and driving dynamics. And I think that this one didn't hit the mark for me in terms of driving dynamics, in terms of range. The price point really felt high. And in terms of interior appointments and technology, I found even the Palisade to be a little bit better. So that was I was like, I don't want to just knock this car when I had it a month ago, but I knew that you were going to have it, and it would make for a really good discussion. Not that I think that you're generally positive on the IONIQ 9 in all ways, but when you were driving it, you did tell me that things were going a little bit more your way.
Oh, I feel completely the opposite that you do. It's not even like a question of degree, I think. And so I also don't think it's comparable to the Palisade.
No, I mean, I think it's only comparable in the mission statement of being a 3-row SUV. You can even get more seats in one of the cars, I think, in the Palisade. And while the space is kind of similar, the price point is really, really not.
The price point is different. The power is different. The styling is radically different. I feel like this vehicle is as close as Hyundai has ever come to making a genuine luxury vehicle ever since they spun off Genesis.
Okay, I think that's a great thing. That's a great place to start. Why wouldn't they just make a Genesis? Because this is it.
They will.
Canada.
Because that's the beautiful thing. They don't have to choose, right? Like they can. I mean,
what would be called GV90?
Well, I think it's something like that has already been announced. Yeah. But the other thing about this vehicle is it's not the first 3-row from Hyundai, because Kia came out with the EV9 last year.
Right. Exactly. I didn't drive the EV9 yet.
I drove it, and I drove the GT line package, and it was the worst handling large SUV I think I've driven in years, because the suspension tune for the rear end was, I don't know, stiff to the point of being, I don't want to use the word dangerous because I was not in danger, but every time I went over a bump, the rear end of the vehicle would lift up and move around. And I have not had that happen. Just a complete lack of control from the GT line trim. And so when I got into the IONIQ 9, I was curious as to whether it would have the same kind of just hyper tense, unnecessary reflexes, I guess. And it was night and day. Like I'm assuming, took a lesson from the tuning of that suspension. And when they went to the IONIQ 9, they're like, no, this is something that we're not even going to pretend is a high performance vehicle. We're going to position it as a premium badge. And I think that was a really smart move for them. So you were talking about pricing. The calligraphy in Canada is like around $80,000 before you add in like $2,000 worth of delivery fees. In the States, it's about $60,000 in base. There's a base rear-wheel drive version, and I mean like base. It's the only model that has rear-wheel drive in the US. I don't even know if it's available in Canada. So that's 61 grand, and then it goes up to 79 US for the calligraphy design, which is a calligraphy with different wheels and different paint options. So if you're looking at pricing, the Canadian model at 80 grand Canadian is a screaming deal versus 79 grand for a US calligraphy. Like, I guess so, yeah. Literally 30% less with the currency exchange. That is wild.
Yeah, absolutely. The range, the currency exchange really doesn't do the car a favor in the US for sure.
And I'm wondering if it has anything to do. I don't know where the IONIQ 9 is built, so it could be that tariffs are pushing the price up in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. Because I know the IONIQ 5 is now built in the US for the American market, and that's how
I'm just really uncomfortable with the concept of a nearly. I mean, this is 80,000 in the US.
Well, what are you uncomfortable about? What does that make you uncomfortable?
I think at that price point, I'm trying to think of the. I mean, the thing that's working out in the car's favor is that there are so few good all electric 3-row SUVs.
There are none. There are none that are not luxury, other than the Kia.
Yes, and from what I understand, the Kia did not impress you very much.
Not the GT line trim. I didn't drive any others, but I mean, once you exclude the Kia, you end up with the Cadillac Vistic and the Volvo EX90, pretty much, right? Mm-hmm. And I guess there's is the Rivian a 3-row?
I think so.
It feels smaller though.
I'm not sure. Actually,
in any case, you're much more expensive.
Right.
Like the most expensive version of the IONIQ is roughly the starting price for all of those vehicles.
Exactly. I think that's an important thing to talk about. But of course, you're spending money on a couple of things that are meant to be more premium. I mean, so for starters, the interior is really high end for a Hyundai. It does really land on the edge of a premium vehicle, I think.
So that's the one area where I thought it was less impressive. Like I liked the dashboard and the calligraphy. I thought the design and the inlay of I guess it's supposed to look like marble or something.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool, but then you end up with, your switch gear is still Hyundai and the screen on the dash is just kind of there. And you know how I feel about that kind of thing.
Yeah. It's got that same double 12.3 inch screen. They hook up together. They just make this blank black plastic on the dash. It's really like, it's okay. I think it's really okay.
It's super mega okay, but like to your point about pricing, like that's one area. Like everything is fine inside, like the seat, the appearance wise. One thing that impressed me a lot, like, well, I don't know, maybe go on with you're talking about the aesthetics, and we can get to seating maybe later on.
No, I think I was about to talk about seating right now.
Okay.
Because I think the interior is where we should really discuss this car. In my test, I found that it had almost identical interior space to the Palisade, with the exception of I think one measurement with all the seats up. I think the IONIQ has more overall space, but not by like a whopping amount.
So I used the vehicle on an airport run.
Okay.
And I was it has basically 22 cubic feet behind the third row. So if every seat is occupied. But most of that space is vertical. Still, I was able to take my gym bag lengthways and I could touch the seat back and not touch the hatch. So like that's decent. And if you have roll-on luggage that's tall, it fits in there really well. So it's still useful. And then if you fold down the third row, it basically doubles the amount of space you have.
Okay. So from then on though, there's a few like interesting, how do you describe them? Quirks about the technology in the vehicle.
Well, are we still talking seats? Because I wasn't finished with seats.
Yeah, talk to me about these seats.
What I really thought was cool, the third row has power recline.
Yes.
You don't find that in a lot of SUVs, period, like electric or not.
Yeah, and not only that, but you can actually adjust the seats from the driver's seat through the touchscreen. This is something that I found was common between the Palisade and the IONIQ. So you can kind of prepare the cabin if you're picking somebody up, which is pretty cool too.
And not only that, if you're in that third row, there's multiple ways to get in and out of it. Like if you're sitting in the third row, there are buttons that you can use to move the second row forward and backwards. There is a pull ripcord that you can pop the seat out from the second row moorings and flip it forward. And if you're getting in from the side, there's another set of controls on the side of the seat that will do all of that, plus the normal like seat position stuff for the second row. Like sometimes when I get into a 3-row vehicle, the back row can feel like a prison because it's not clear how you can escape it if you need to, right?
Yeah.
Like once that second row seat locks in place, you're kind of at the mercy of whoever is sitting in front of you. With the IONIQ 9, that wasn't the case, and I really appreciated it. And it feels like maybe this is redundant to have all these controls. And how often are people going to be sitting in the third row anyway? The fact that they paid attention to that is pretty cool.
And then I was impressed that, well, maybe this is now. Actually, never mind. I was concerned that
no longer.
I was concerned
impressed to concerned.
No, I was concerned that actually, for a cheaper vehicle, the Palisade had in Canada heated seats in all 3 rows, vented seats in the second row, and some additional technology, I think, in terms of like the embedded dash cam and that weird UV sanitization doodad.
That doodad is useless, though. I know. Let's be real. Maybe if it sanitized the entire interior at the push of a button, I want a button that does that. The IONIQ 9 does the first 2 rows are heated for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about ventilated? Question mark.
No.
Do you really need a heated third row seat?
When you've got a vehicle this large, and I think that's important.
Yeah, but if your kids are cold and they complain and they're in the third row, you're not going to hear them.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
it's fine. It's totally fine. One other thing about we're talking cargo. So there's a frunk in the IONIQ 9, but it is lunchbox sized.
Yeah, it's tiny. It's only good for like a portable charger.
Yeah, it's 1.9 cubic feet if you have all-wheel drive and 3.1 if you have rear-wheel drive. Again, not sure if rear-wheel drive is available in Canada, but there is that one base model in the US where you can get it. And the reason I know the size of the frunk, I don't often use them, but we'll get to talking about the styling of this vehicle later. I had a problem where, I don't know if this happened to you, Sammy, so much snow and ice accumulated between the windshield wipers and the cowl of the hood that my wipers would not park. That's interesting. I didn't have that issue. They stayed stuck up, and I tried to clean it out with a brush, and I couldn't. The cowl is so deep that I tried reaching it with my hands. I couldn't get it to work. So finally I had to pop the frunk and use my hands to clean out the snow that had accumulated, which isn't ideal because once you do that, you get so much snow that just falls into the frunk itself. So if you do have something in there, it's going to get wet or like at least a little bit cold. Mm-hmm. I have not had a vehicle that had that kind of snow accumulation problem, which makes me feel like it's a design issue. I had serious issues in the snow with this car, like really uncomfortable issues that really distracted me while I was driving the vehicle. And I know that's really weird because apparently you had driven it in a similarly snowy weather, but far snowier.
I believe our cars had different winter tires.
No, who can say?
I believe we had the Continentals, maybe? I'm trying to remember now. I'm sure I have a photo of it somewhere. I don't know why they would have different ones. I mean, I suppose it's entirely possible. Fleets are going to do their fleet thing, right? Yeah. I did do a close-up of the tire because I had a problem with the wheels more than the tires. So let me see if I can find that. I don't think I've got photos of this. Let me see. Anyways, I just could not. The stopping distances felt really, really long in this car. And uncomfortably so. I had Michelin X Ice. Let me take a look. I'm looking, okay? So while you're looking, I'm going to address the point you just made. A vehicle this size and this weight is going to take longer to stop. And you add snow to that, and it's going to increase that stopping distance even more. Well, I don't appreciate you telling me that as if I don't know that. I'm telling our listeners that. I'm not lecturing you. You're supposedly looking at photos. I didn't even know you were listening. I bring it up because it's something that I don't think we talk about. SUV, X-Ice Alpine SUV or something. Yeah, so we had the same tires. Yeah, I don't know. People don't really talk about this when they talk about EVs in the wintertime. I mean, we all know that heavier cars take longer to stop. I think I mentioned it when we had the BMW M5 Touring, which is like 5,500 pounds, something like that, 5,800 pounds. I'm going to guess that the IONIQ is in that neighborhood, if not a little bit heavier. Yeah. And I never found the vehicle to be sliding past where I was comfortable. I did make sure to take more time. There's a on my commute, when I come off my road onto the main highway, there's a little bit of a downhill. And many times I have been caught out by my own exuberance
in not hitting the brake early enough, and I end up sliding down that hill in the winter. So I become much more careful with it. And in the IONIQ, I was like, okay, this is going to take a while. And I was just a little bit more judicious with my brake application.
So the other thing is, it is that weight, that added weight of this vehicle just becomes so much more. It just becomes so much more noticeable in the winter. In the dry, it's way less of a concern. But in the winter,
how did you notice it? What was the main?
Like I said, the long stopping distances, and even like cornering or turning. And I'm not even mean cornering actually. Like turning at intersections, the car really struggled to get front end grip, and sort of like push through. It felt like I was driving. I mean, obviously I was. It felt like I was driving through slush, but I had zero grip in so many situations that like made me super uneasy with dealing with that much weight. You had to drive it at significantly lower speeds than I think other cars. Well, I mean, I drove it back to back with a Palisade, and I didn't feel that same. I didn't have that same feeling. However, I will point out there is one really interesting thing about the IONIQ 9. Size-wise, it's lower than the Palisade, and it's got a much longer wheelbase, I believe, and it just feels a little bit more car-like, I think, on the road than a big wobbly top-heavy kind of SUV. So all of that weight is really down low, and like I said, in the dry, totally fine feeling car, but once I had it in the cold, it just wasn't my driving style.
So my experience again was kind of at odds with yours, where we had a couple blizzards while I had it. I ended up booting it pretty hard on some back roads.
Oh yeah, roads. I could not pick up the.
I found the vehicle was completely fine in corners. In fact, I was impressed by how controlled a heavy vehicle felt. The only time I really noticed the weight of the vehicle when I was underway was on moguls. There's some up down motion of the chassis. Mm-hmm. It's not enough to make anyone seasick, but it's definitely there. Also, the car was really tough to get the rear end to kick out, which is unusual for a vehicle like this. When it's driven quickly, it understeers more than anything else, and even the understeer is super manageable. What I did have happen is maybe similar to what you mentioned, pulling away from a stop. If you're doing like a 90-degree corner, for example, like at an intersection, the rear end will kick out a little bit in that situation. Or you'll get a little bit of a shimmy if you get on the gas too fast, and it'll step out just a little bit. But that was at lower speeds. I found that in normal driving, I never had those problems. And I found the traction control was really helpful versus being intrusive, which is like, I think back to when I had the Leaf a couple of weeks ago in the snow, when I would pull out from again, that little hill that leads to the highway it can be a little heart stopping sometimes, because once you've managed to brake on that slippery part, you have to pull out onto the road and hope that the traffic behind you doesn't catch up to you, right? If there's a lot of traffic, because they're going fast. So I would pull out in the Leaf, but because the wheel was cranked to the left or to the right, the traction control would really damp down on throttle. And I would be in this situation where my foot is down and we're not accelerating and cars are coming up really quickly behind me. And I did not appreciate that. In the IONIQ, that did not happen. It was much better at figuring out traction. Instead of just saying no power for you, it would do its best to like find traction on one wheel and another wheel and get you moving. So I was impressed by that. There's a sport mode, which I didn't really feel the need to use. Like I tried it out, but this is not a sporty vehicle. There's a snow mode, which is supposed to smooth out your inputs. And I guess it works. I didn't find it to be necessary.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't change any of the drive modes. I just kept it, I think, in either the eco mode or the snow mode.
It's worth mentioning that like both Sami and I drove the most powerful version of the IONIQ.
Yeah, I was about to get that. We should start talking about the powertrain on this thing.
Go for it.
So under the hood, we've got two motors here. I believe they're equally powered in terms of performance, 160 kilowatts at both ends, basically at the front and rear axle. Together, they make 422 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. This is a really punchy, responsive powertrain. I think it's really impressive that they've made such a heavy, big car feel kind of... I mean, I say this every time we drive an EV, but this is like among the biggest EVs we've driven, save for probably one of those like... Ultium trucks, I guess.
Yeah.
The battery is also 110 kilowatt hours.
Yeah, and that's the same. So just to butt in on the power, there's also all-wheel drive models that don't have as much power.
Yeah.
So the mid-range models have 303 horsepower and 446 pound-feet. And then the base model, the rear-wheel drive, is 215 horsepower and 258 pound-feet.
Sorry, 215 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. It still has a 110 kilowatt-hour battery. I do not think this car exists. Like, personally, I think this is just a paper launch.
Maybe for the range, right? Because it's 335 miles of range for that model versus 311 for the one that you and I drove. So that's not a big difference. That's like 8%, 9%, maybe even less. But they do get
less
to
than
advertise.
10%.
Yeah. What was your efficiency like?
I really struggled to get anywhere close to 500 kilometers. I got closer to 400. Let me give you that in miles. Is 250, around 250 miles per charge, and oftentimes less than that.
So on the coldest day that I drove the vehicle, I saw 55 kilowatt hours per 100 miles of driving, which is 198 miles of driving range. That translates into 316 kilometers versus the expected 500 kilometers for this vehicle. So it's a drop of about 43%. Now,
that's a huge drop.
It's a huge drop, but again,
these were the coldest days I've driven.
Very cold. Very cold.
I will point out, though, that I was driving the driving.ca long-term tester, which is primarily under the care of the editor there, Renita Narain. And she herself says she barely ever gets over 400 kilometers in the winter.
She has the IONIQ calligraphy as the long-term?
Yeah, basically, yes.
Okay.
She's had it since, I think, October. And she says once it got cold, basically that 500 kilometer range really dropped. However, she's a little bit different than I think you, who's had a level 2 charger for quite a while now. And I don't have a level 2 charger, actually. I just use the level. You should. I know I should. I'm working on it this year.
Okay.
And I actually have one. Sorry, I should point this out. I have one. I just haven't installed it yet. I need to get. I have to get it wired up in the garage. Anyway,
you should just plug it in, and then have the cable go to the outback or something, so your neighbors freak out.
So she says basically she was really concerned about that limited range, basically like you said, around 40%.
Well, it's not that limited. It's still pretty good.
Until she realized that, you can charge this thing every single day, get that 400 kilometers of range, 350, 400 kilometers of range every single night, and not have to worry really about long distance driving.
It'll do 10% to 80% in 24 minutes on a level 3 charger.
I'm curious. Did you get that? Did you get to test that during the?
No, I almost never DC fast charge. It's just not necessary when you have a level 2 charger at home. And I mean, with a big battery like that, level 2 takes a long time. I mean, I'm peaking out at 7 kilowatt hours, right? So let's say you have a 110 kilowatt hour battery.
That's like,
if it was empty, you're looking at like 13 hours, maybe 14 hours.
Yeah, I actually have it here. They say it would be a 220 volt or 240 volt would be about 9 hours and 40 minutes.
Now, see, that's not true because,
but yeah, yours is a bit. I mean, that would be very efficient.
You have to understand there's different types of level 2 charger, right?
Yes.
So mine is generally electricians do not like you using the maximum capacity of a particular fuse or breaker on your breaker box, right? So I can't remember the exact number. I want to say it's something like 70% capacity. Maybe it's a little bit less, and they leave you some overhead. So depending on what you already have coming out of the box, your charger for level 2, in theory, there are level 2 chargers that can go 9.2 kilowatt hours, 9.2 kilowatts, 11 kilowatts, like at the extreme. But you would almost have to have a box that's dedicated to the charger to do that. When I got mine, just from a heat perspective and the fact that I have heating in the garage, I have lights in the garage that is attached to, I don't want to go crazy. I don't want the charger to trip a breaker and blow out, the power in my garage. So it's set to 7 or 7.2 kilowatt hour, which is pretty common for a lot of what you'll see for level 2. So when you see these kinds of things from manufacturers, you have to interrogate like what speed they're going to pick the best speed for them, right? Like if level 2 has max capacity of this, that's what they're going to go with.
Exactly. So, anything else though that really is something you wanted to discuss with this car?
I think it looks great. I think I think this is the thing when you look at this vehicle. You mentioned that it has that long wheelbase. I also think about the roof line and how the roof line slopes to the rear. This is very Range Rover. This is
I think I mean, again, I drove it back to back to a, what's it called? Palisade. And I think the Palisade looks super Range Rover.
I think this looks way more Range Rover.
You're crazy. Wow.
How am I crazy?
I just don't see it. Okay.
In profile, I mean, if you look at the Range Rover, it has almost a camback tail, right? Where you have that roof
like
coming
the
down.
Sport.
I'm sorry?
Range Rover Sport or like the full size?
No, the full size. It has a tilted roof at the rear. Am I insane? Is there not a tilted roof there?
It's mild.
I'm going to look it up right now.
I think it's a bit mild.
No, it's definitely pronounced. It's definitely pronounced. I'm seeing it.
I mean, it's definitely more so than the EV9. What was the name of the other one?
EV9.
Is it called the EV9? Oh my goodness.
I just find it's a nice look, and I think it makes an impression. It's certainly, when you're building an EV that's this big. I mean, if you look at the Volvo, it's very Volvo, right? Like it really makes you think like, okay, this is in line with all the other Volvos that are out there that we've seen so far. And if you look at the Vistic from Cadillac, it kind of looks like a baby Escalade in some ways on purpose.
Okay.
But then you get to the IONIQ 9. It does not look like an IONIQ 6 and it does not look like an IONIQ 5 at all. It's its own thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's
I've talked to Hyundai designers in the past about their design philosophy. It seems like they're sticking through it with the IONIQ sub-brand as well, in that they want every car to have its own unique identity. They say that not everybody has a lineup of those cars on their driveway. They want a car that looks good no matter what, right? So
Sure. And there's one more thing I do want to bring up about this vehicle in the snow. And that I had these like multi-spoke 21-inch rims in the and they gathered snow like you would not believe inside the rims. And because of the size of the slots for the spokes, there's no way I could say that again. There's no way to put a brush in there and clean them out. And I didn't want to use the plastic part of the brush, because the scraper, because I didn't want to damage the finish on the rims. Right. So over time, so much snow accumulated inside the wheel, not just in the slots, but in these are very wide wheels in that area as well, that I couldn't drive above 90 kilometers an hour without the steering wheel shaking like crazy. I actually had to go get it washed, which is very, very rare where I have this problem. Like the last time I think I had snow accumulation like this was the Odyssey, and I was able to clean the Odyssey out by hand. But this, I actually had to go and just get jets of water to melt all that stuff.
That's wild. Okay. And it just like created like a gnarly vibration.
Yeah, because the snow accumulates unevenly, right? So when you have the snow, when it's frozen and there are chunks of ice in there and the wheel is rotating, it's essentially like adding weights to the wheel. And so it's no longer balanced. And so that's where you start to get bad vibrations in the front end.
Interesting.
It happens a lot if certain rim designs just were not intended for snow. That's
right.
kind of the beginning and end of it.
So that's, I guess, our differing takes on it. I just didn't love the driving style, and I found it to be fairly expensive. I know when you take a look at the rest of the 3-row SUV EV lineup, of which there is only really a Kia and premium vehicles, it makes a little bit more sense, but it's a lot of money. I mean, I just
the funny thing about money, Sammy, is you like it more if you spend it.
I guess so. It's more valuable when you spend it, I guess. I don't know. And I wasn't in love with the driving dynamics, other than the feeling that it actually drove smaller than it was, which is an admirable quality given the weight of it and just the practicality of it.
So there's another vehicle I wanted to talk about today, and this is something that this vehicle caught me by surprise. When I was going to Toronto to visit Sami and do other things, I ended up driving an Acura RDX. And the Acura RDX, I don't know if we've talked about it on the show before, or at least recently. It's on its way out. They're making a new, I want to say plug-in hybrid or hybrid version of the vehicle that's going to be on a different platform. Is that right, Sami?
I believe so. Yeah.
So 2027, it's going to be a very different vehicle. And as a result, The 2026 model year, it's unchanged from 2025. I drove a 25, and I checked with Honda USA and I checked in Canada, and there's no difference between the 25 and the 26. So I'm going to talk about it as though it's the current model year. But even that, they're only making it for like 6 months. They're just going to do enough to keep inventory on dealer lots, and then it's going to be gone. So I got into this vehicle thinking,
That's really weird. I feel like I've driven a model year 26.
Yeah, it does
late last year.
I mean, maybe you did. I don't know. It just there wasn't one here in Montreal. So it doesn't matter. They're the same vehicle. There's no differences. I wasn't sure what to think of the RDX because I've personally never really found the vehicle to be super competitive. I didn't have a problem with it, but it was the kind of thing where I'd be like, why don't you just get an X3? Or why don't you just get a Lexus? You know,
answer the question about that. Why?
What?
Why not just get one?
Well, I'm about to tell you.
Tell me.
This is actually a pretty good vehicle. I shocked myself.
There is one critical flaw.
Yeah, we're going to get to that later. But this
one
has
red flag, unmissable red flag.
This vehicle has, what is it? 272 horsepower, turbocharged 4-cylinder. It's got a 10-speed automatic. It's got the super handling all-wheel drive that Acura is super proud of. And it actually has decent styling. In particular, the interior of mine. I had the A-Spec, and I believe it was let me double check the actual model. In the States, I believe it's called A-Spec Advance, and in Canada, it's called Platinum Elite A-Spec.
Excellent.
I don't know how many more descriptors they can fit into that. So in Canada, it's about 66,000 before you get into delivery charges. In the US, it is 55 grand. So the exchange rate hasn't really done what it has done for the IONIQ. In this case, you can also get like a regular A-Spec that doesn't have as much of the luxury stuff. But I had this beautiful red interior, red highlights on the door panels, red seats. It looked good to the point where other people were talking about the interior of the vehicle. Nice. Luxury SUV owners were actually being like, "Hey, that looks really nice. I'm impressed by that," and that surprised me. I hadn't really. It had been probably 5 years since I last drove an RDX. And the last time I drove one was also on a long trip. I went up to Ice Race in Milton. Is that Minden? Minden, Ontario. With shout out to Russ Bond for hooking me up. My dad and I did some door-to-door ice racing there. A lot of fun. And we got lost a little bit on the way back on the secondary roads in the middle of the night in this RDX. It was, in the snow. It was perfect. No issues. I wasn't sure if this was the right vehicle for a long distance trip because as Sami talked about, there's something about it that is super retro. And by retro, I mean, not really retro, just gone, a decision that should never have been made and that every other car company has walked away from since. And that's the infotainment system. Sami, why is the infotainment system so bad on this vehicle?
Well, because one, it's not a touchscreen, and two, it's mostly a pair of touchpads.
It's a pair. I couldn't get the second one to ever work, so we're gonna say there's one.
There's two.
There's like a square one, and then a taller rectangular one beside the square one.
Okay,
right? And the taller rectangular one doesn't do anything in any situation. And that was frustrating. But more frustrating is the fact that not only has Acura given us the worst way you can interact with a vehicle while you're driving, because it's tough to have the motor skills to pilot a vehicle, keep your attention on the road, and somehow like mouse around properly. The other issue, the primary issue with it is you can't use it like a laptop. It's not the same kind of movement, right? Like, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's expecting you to do these really strong swipes just to move a little bit. Like you can't just trail your finger around and get to where you want to go. It's like icon to icon to icon. Oh my goodness. It is maddening to the point where I was using Android Auto, and normally I'm pretty good about reporting things when I see them on the road, like if there's an accident or a speed trap, or responding to prompts like, is this still there? I gave up on it. I just couldn't do it. I was like, I'm not going to put myself in danger to use this system, which is how it felt. I'm assuming the replacement RDX will not have this quote unquote technology. I'm assuming it's gone. Everything else about the interior, I liked. I went crazy in Toronto because I don't often get
That's
to.
not good.
I don't often go to Anglophone bookstores, English bookstores, because where I live, primarily French speaking. And so when I get to a large English speaking city, I buy a ton of books. I'm also starting to collect laser discs for reasons I don't understand. So
I picked up some for you.
Yeah, Sammy picks them up for me. He met someone at a library in Mississauga.
Very safe.
And brought those to me.
You're not allowed to scream when you're getting mugged in a library. Yeah.
So I had a bunch of those, and I had a bunch of Blu-rays. And we also had, it was Lunar New Year, so we had a ton of food that was coming back with us as well. When we went to Toronto, I was able to put everything behind the second row without any problems, and a few things on the second row. When we came back, I was like, oh no, we have all this stuff. Like, what are we going to do? I don't like packing to the ceiling because I like being able to see out the back window. Folded the seat, distributed everything, and I was able to just have it level off under the window, and it worked perfectly. I was impressed. It was really easy.
Nice.
The RDX has some other weird stuff, like it on the dash. It has like a big knob that you think would be for volume.
Oh yes,
but it's actually
drive mode. It's a drive mode selector. Yes.
The thing you do the most in your car is change drive modes on the fly, right? Like, no, you never do that. It's something you do once at the start of your drive, and then you forget about it. You know, like, oh, I've been in eco mode for 3 days. You know, like I don't remember this stuff. I put that in sport mode a few times. It does change the response of the transmission, which I appreciated, but I didn't really feel like, I believe also, sorry, it has a suspension effect on the A-Spec, the top tier A-Spec. In any case, I didn't really feel it to be necessary. Like, the acceleration is quite good in all circumstances. Fuel economy, I got like 10 liters per 100 kilometers for the whole trip, which I think is like 21 or 22 miles per gallon, something like that. I think those numbers are accurate. Let me double check. Which is decent for the cold weather that we had and the speeds we were traveling, and the fact that the vehicle was so full of stuff on the way back. I'm just going to make sure that those numbers are right. Yeah, 9.88 was my most efficient, and 10.8 was my average. And I want to say that's around 22. For that level of power and all-wheel drive, I'm not complaining about that in the winter. The adaptive cruise control worked really well. It has a lane centering system that's pretty happy in pretty much all weather conditions, unless it can't see the lines on the road, in which case it's not going to work properly. But as a road trip vehicle, it was good. I was impressed. It's now a vehicle that I might actually start recommending to people.
Oh, wow.
Which super surprised me.
I can't do it with that.
But here's the thing, Sammy. We used to recommend the RX, which had that pad, right?
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
I think it just seems like a long time ago because of how traumatic it was. Like, I think it was a little closer to the current reality than we'd like to think. Definitely, this pad could be a deal breaker for a lot of people. And I would have to make it a massive asterisk in my recommendation. But I thought this was cool. I'm willing to bet you can get them for a discount because of the fact that this is the last model year and a totally different model's coming out. It's decent styling, and it is useful. It was a useful vehicle. And I mean, if you're going up against like, what's competing against this? X3, Macan, you know, like,
wow, Macan is expensive.
Exactly.
That's very specific.
That's what I'm saying. It's like the competitors to this vehicle. I mean, obviously I like the X3 more. I like the Genesis GV70 more. I don't know if I like the NX more. Is this an NX size vehicle or is this an RX size vehicle?
I would say it's NX size.
Okay. The NX is, I'm on the fence with that. It's good. It has way more drivetrain choice. You can get the plug-in. That's pretty cool. But if you're looking for something that's quote unquote luxurious and you don't want to buy like a Buick Envision and the Macan is just too expensive, I mean, you could do a lot worse. Mm-hmm. What do you think? Do you think I'm crazy?
I think it drives well. I think it's very, it's relatively spacious. And I think that the pricing is pretty decent. And it looks good inside and out. My main issue is the infotainment, and I think I said spacious, but I meant specifically in terms of cargo space. I think the rear seat space isn't as spacious as other compact crossovers, and I only know that because I'm throwing in a rear facing car seat in all of my press cars, and I remember when I had it with the with the RDX, I felt like it was a little bit tight for the front passenger.
Now, there's vehicles like the GLC, the XC60 from Volvo, the Q5, I guess Maserati Grecale, like that's technically a compact. So. But would you take this over, say, a Stelvio or an F-Pace, which is somehow still on sale?
I like both of those very much. So no.
You really like the Stelvio?
Yeah, Stelvio's cool when it's working.
I think it looks great, but I mean, you want to talk bad infotainment.
Yeah, that's true. Dated infotainment for sure. Absolutely. But at least, it doesn't work.
What about a Velar?
Oh, I love the Velar.
But could you recommend it in good conscience?
No. These are not for me. None of these cars are for me.
Yeah.
None of these cars are for other people. They're for me.
I also feel like I can say that the RDX will probably be less troublesome than many of the vehicles we just mentioned.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
I think that's a good idea. I've always really liked the RDX. It has a really interesting history where the first generation model featured a turbocharged powertrain. The second gen had a
turbo V6.
No, it was a turbo 4, and then the second gen had a naturally aspirated V6, and then for this third gen they've gone back to a turbo 4. It's just this weird like flip-flopping they keep doing, and then there's this whole super handling all-wheel drive thing.
I'm assuming that maybe going back to the Turbo 4 is a taxation issue for other markets.
I guess so. Yeah.
So that's my bid on the RDX. It caught me by surprise. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. I thought it would just put in a decent job's work and I would forget about it. And it wasn't like that. It was something that I enjoyed driving long distance, and on the twistier roads near my house, it was fine. It was totally fine in a way that, a lot of these vehicles are not, like SUVs of this size. So, I was taken with its styling over time. And I think you can maybe even get it in some cool colors. I'm not sure about that. There's a nice red. I know that, but mine was in kind of a frosty gray. You can get a blue. I guess there's only two colors. There's blue and there's red. And the rest is like black, 3 grays and a white. If you get the base model, you're only getting, in Canada, gray, white, or black, which is kind of sad.
I think that's the case with so many, vehicles just have absolutely no palette, really. It's just grayscale all the time.
Yeah.
Anyways, anything else you want to talk about this week?
No, I think that's I'm an empty void now. Okay.
Let's tell the people where they can find all of our previous episodes and other things that we've been doing.
Where would that be?
You can head over to our website, unnamedautomotivepodcast.com. And while you're there, you can see all of our previous episodes. You can click on links to any articles that we are sharing of the cars that we talk about in our episodes. And you can subscribe to our podcast that way. Although realistically, you should just go to whatever podcatcher or podcast client that you're using and do it that way. Additionally, you can go to our website and fill out a contact us form, and that will send us some great feedback right to our inbox. We love it when we hear from you guys, and we tend to use a lot of the questions that you guys send us to help our show just be a little bit more relatable, I suppose. So send us all your comments. If you don't want to do it through the website, you go on to your email client. You put in the to field, Benjamin at benjaminhunting.com.
Thanks for specifying the to field. I mean, we're 35 years into email, so we do need the refresher.
And so he comes in, he reads those emails, he sends them to me, and
I do my best. Sometimes I miss the to field entirely, and I just BCC everything.
And then additionally, you can reach out to us on social media. I recommend that you hit us up on Instagram. I'm at Sami_ha, like you're laughing, and Ben over there, he's at Hunting Benjamin.
Over there.
That's him.
Sammy, what are we going to be talking about next week?
I don't think I've got a car to talk about specifically next week.
Well, I've got a car that's going to curl your toes, and that is the 2026 Subaru Outback. That is the brand new Outback, Sammy.
I can't wait.
All right.
I love this.
Thank you for listening, everybody.
See ya.